Restore my throne, human, and I'll give you everything you desire. She smirked. The joke reached him before the bullet did. Restore my crown. Human, and I'll give you everything I own, a laughing voice said from somewhere ahead. The laugh echoed off wet metal. Then a blue pulse burned a hole through the billboard beside his head. Captain Jace Ward dropped behind a crate. Rain hammered Dock 9 like 1,000 small drums. Neon bled into the puddles. The night air tasted like rust and old electricity. Port Meridian was not kind. It did not need to be. It was where lost people came to vanish. Jace checked the tracker on his wrist. A red dot slid deeper into the maze of abandoned loading bays. The dot was his job. A stolen data core. Pay was high. Risks were higher. He breathed out slow, calm. He moved. He kept one hand near his sidearm. He kept the other on the wall to feel the vibration of steps. The docks were crowded by day, but empty now. Only the rain and the hum of failing lights stayed with him. He passed a stall of alien fruit left to rot. He passed a broken loader with a jaw like a steel shark. He passed a mural of the Varaxi Dominion's crest, smeared by muddy handprints. The smear mattered. It said the locals were scared. It said the law here wore a foreign face. Another pulse cut the dark and hissed through steam. Jace rolled and came up behind a pillar. Stop shooting, he called. I'm not Varaxi. I'm independent. His voice was steady. He hated that it sounded like a negotiation. A shadow moved on a catwalk. Light brushed a figure's outline, slim, armed, confident. The voice returned, closer now, smooth and dangerous. Independent? You are wearing their colors. Jace looked down at his jacket. Olive drab. Old Terran stock. Surplus, he said. Bought cheap. Like your jokes, silence. Then a soft snort. Only humans flirt beneath crosshairs. He stood very slowly and raised his hands. Palms open. No sudden moves. See? Human, no crest, no oath. Just here for a box someone lost. She stepped into the light and the whole alley shifted around her. Her skin held a faint green sheen like deep water. Silver hair fell in a loose braid. Her suit was patched, precise, and ready for a fight. A compact rifle rested easy in her hands like it belonged there, but it was her eyes that pinned him, bright, watchful, tired. What is a Terran doing in Dominion space chasing my signal? She asked. Your signal is tied to a data core, Jace said. It belongs to a Terran diplomat. I collect it. I go home. Diplomat, she said, and the word tasted sour. And if that core holds codes that can unchain 12 worlds? It's not my business, he replied. I retrieve. I don't debate. She studied him. Rain traced silver lines down her cheeks and did not seem to bother her. Names matter in this city, she said at last. I am Leora. Jace Ward, she said, as if sorting that name with others she knew. You have a reputation for surviving. Sometimes by running, he said. Sometimes by thinking faster than the next person. And sometimes by choosing a side. The rifle lowered a little. Not much. The tracker on his wrist chirped. New pings. Multiple. Jace frowned and flicked the display. A grid lit up. Patrol vectors. Timing shifts. Your hunters changed their sweep pattern, he said. Varaxi. Full armor. They shouldn't be here for an hour, Leora answered, voice tight. We were clean, Jace pointed up. Drones slipped between the rain like blackfish. You're not clean now. The ground thudded. A far door blew inward. A siren wailed once and died, cut by a signal jammer. Leora's rifle snapped to ready. Move, she said. Which way? Jace asked. She tapped a recessed panel. A rusted cargo lift groaned and opened. Stale air flowed out. Down, she said. Old storm tunnels. Low power. Fewer eyes. He hesitated a heartbeat. A job was a job. A life was a life. He stepped into the lift with her. The cage rattled into darkness. The city's noise faded. Pipes ticked. Water dripped. In the dim, Jace noticed something strange. A soft light, not from any bulb. He glanced at Leora's forearms. A faint glow pulsed beneath her skin with her breath. He raised an eyebrow. She saw the look. Lyran blood, she said, clipped. Bioluminescent under stress. Useful for signaling. Terrible for hiding. Can you shut it off? Only if you stop giving me reasons to be stressed. The lift slammed to a halt. The gate slid aside. A narrow service corridor stretched ahead, ribbed with conduits and grime. Leora moved first, steps sure. Jace followed, counting turns, mapping exits, looking for ambush angles. He could feel the chase above them. The pressure of a net being pulled tight. They reached a junction. Leora paused and pressed her ear to the pipe. She nodded left. 1 minute to a safe room, she said. Then we talk. About the core? Jace asked. About why you should leave it with me, she said. And why the Dominion would rather burn this district than see that happen. Boots clanged on metal behind them. Close. Too close. Jace drew his sidearm. Save the speech, he said. Make the turn. They ran. The corridor opened into a small chamber framed by old bulkheads. A table, 2 battered chairs. A wall of flickering screens linked to stolen cams. Leora slapped a control. Doors sealed with a shutter. Heavy bolts locked. She moved to a console and dragged a map over the screen. Welcome to the bad idea, she said, breath steadying. This is where you choose what kind of human you are. Outside, the storm tunnels filled with the cold light of Dominion visors. Inside, between a thief and a mercenary, the red dot on Jace's tracker kept pulsing, like a heartbeat that belonged to both of them, and to a war he had tried not to see. The metal door groaned behind them as Leora sealed it shut. Faint blue light spilled from the screens, painting her face in cold color. She looked like a ghost of a world that refused to die. Jace kept his weapon drawn. You going to explain why an alien resistance fighter is sitting on something half the galaxy wants dead? Leora turned toward him slowly. Because half the galaxy already is dead, human. They just haven't realized it yet. She keyed a sequence on the console. The monitors came alive. Footage of labor camps, factories, and starships drifting in orbit around gray worlds. On every screen, the symbol of the Varaxi Dominion, a circle within jagged wings, glared like an eye. They burn planets, one by one, she said softly. Slavery for those who kneel, extinction for those who don't. My father wanted to change that. My uncle wanted his throne instead. Jace frowned. So that's what this is about? A family feud with body counts? Her gaze cut to him, sharp as glass. You think I'm fighting for revenge? She stepped closer, and the faint green glow under her skin brightened with emotion. I fight because someone has to. Because when the Dominion took my crown, they took my world. You humans might sell your loyalty, but I won't sell my people. Jace met her stare. I don't sell loyalty, he said. I sell survival. Leora studied him for a heartbeat, then smiled faintly. Not kind, but knowing. And yet you didn't shoot me when you had the chance. I was curious, he said. Curiosity's bad for business. She turned back to the screen, zooming in on a digital map. The display marked a blinking red beacon deep inside the industrial district. The data core you're chasing holds Dominion fleet coordinates, real-time movements. We can use it to strike their palace. Without it, every free system falls within a year. Jace rubbed his jaw. Sounds heroic. Also suicidal. That's what heroes look like before history edits them, she said quietly. I need your help to extract it safely. I can't trust anyone here. And I should trust you because... She walked to the edge of the room and pulled something from her belt pouch, a crest made of black alloy, tarnished but still bearing a faint emerald symbol. Because this belonged to the last true ruler of the Dominion. My father, I'm his heir, Jace blinked. You're serious? Princess Leora Vesson, she said, her tone flat as if the title was a weight she hated carrying. In exile, in hiding, waiting for a human mercenary who thinks this is all about money. He gave a low whistle. Princess. That's new. You don't exactly act royal. I learned fast. Crowns attract bullets. Before he could answer, an explosion rocked the tunnel outside. The walls trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. The lights flickered, then died. Leora's glow intensified in the darkness. They found us. How? Jace asked, already reloading. She clenched her jaw. A tracking nanite. Must have latched onto the data core. Can you shut it down? Not without equipment I don't have. Then we move. Leora nodded and yanked open a lower maintenance hatch. The sound of distant boots and mechanical drones echoed closer. There's a drainage shaft under this room. It'll take us toward the old tram lines. Smells like a trap, Jace muttered. Everything down here is a trap. They dropped into the shaft one after another. The fall was short but hard. Jace landed in ankle-deep water. Leora landed beside him, rifle ready, eyes bright in the gloom. She pointed down the tunnel. This way. As they splashed forward, Jace risked a glance at her. Despite the grime, the rain, the chaos, she moved like she belonged in the dark. Every step balanced and sure. You were trained for this, he said. My mother was Lyran. Their kind fights with instinct. Bioluminescent instincts, he said, glancing at her glow. She smirked. At least you'll never lose me in the dark. They reached a junction lit by a cracked service lamp. From there, they could hear the hum of the city above. Engines, laughter, gunfire, the living pulse of Port Meridian. Leora stopped, scanning her wrist holo map. The tram tunnels connect to a safe zone under the old embassy district. Resistance hideout. Once we reach it, we can plan. And if we don't reach it? Jace asked. She turned to him and her voice dropped. Then the Dominion will erase us and no one will ever know a princess once tried to save her world with a mercenary she couldn't even trust. He studied her face for a long second. Then he grinned. That's the worst motivational speech I've ever heard. Then make it better, she shot back. The tunnel ahead roared as something massive slammed through the bulkhead, a six-legged mech with scanning drones, swirling around it like insects. Its central lens locked onto them, glowing red. Contact, Jace said, already firing. Bolts of plasma seared the dark. Leora dove to the side and unleashed a burst from her rifle. The shots hit the mech's sensors, sparking but not stopping it. Armored unit, she shouted. Too heavy. Yeah, Jace said, rolling behind a broken pipe. But not waterproof. He shot a valve near the ceiling. Pressurized steam burst free, filling the corridor with scalding vapor. The mech stumbled, its targeting systems flickering. Leora saw her chance. She darted forward, vaulted off a pipe, and drove her blade through the machine's neck joint. Sparks exploded. The mech collapsed, hissing as water rushed over its frame. She landed beside Jace, breathing hard, half smiling. You always this lucky, human? Luck's just experience hiding in bad timing, he said. For a moment they stood in silence, the tunnel glowing faintly from the remnants of her biolight. The rain from above dripped through cracks, washing away ash and smoke. Leora looked up at him. If you stay, you'll be hunted. The Dominion doesn't forgive interference. Jace holstered his weapon. Good thing I never ask for forgiveness. She studied him, that strange mix of disbelief and amusement crossing her face again. Maybe humans really are as reckless as they say. He met her gaze evenly. Reckless keeps us alive. Smart keeps us dangerous. Leora turned toward the next tunnel. Then let's be both. And together, a fallen princess and a stubborn human, they vanished into the underground, while above them, Port Meridian's skies lit up with the storm that would soon start a revolution. The storm outside had turned violent. Lightning danced over the skyline, flashing through the cracks of the tunnel roof as if the heavens themselves were hunting them. Down below, the tunnels stretched like the veins of a dying beast, endless, damp, and whispering secrets from long-dead workers. Jace and Leora moved through ankle-deep water, their boots splashing softly. The fight with the mech had drained them both, but neither dared stop. How much farther? Jace asked. His voice echoed against the wet metal walls. Not far, Leora said, eyes fixed on the map projection flickering from her wrist device. If the old resistance routes are still intact, we'll reach the tram station soon. And if they're not, then we find another way. We always find another way. She said it with the tone of someone who had been running her whole life. Jace noticed the tremor in her voice beneath the calm, the way her shoulders stayed too tight, the way her glowing skin dimmed when she thought he wasn't looking. You've done this before, he said quietly. Running, fighting, losing. She didn't look at him. You learn fast, human. I just pay attention. She stopped and turned, her expression unreadable. Then pay attention to this. I can't afford to lose this time. If the Dominion gets that data core back, they'll crush every free world left in this quadrant. Jace met her gaze, unflinching. You think I don't get it? I've seen what they do to planets that won't kneel. I've seen smoke cover oceans. Don't mistake distance for apathy. Leora's eyes softened just a little. Then why keep pretending you're only in it for the money? He smirked. Because hope doesn't pay bills. They walked in silence for a while. The tunnel widened into an old maintenance depot, rusted rails, collapsed walls, and the remains of old transport pods long since scavenged for parts. Leora approached a control terminal half buried in debris. If I can restore power, the tram line could take us directly under the embassy sector. Jace knelt beside her, brushing away dust from a console. This thing's ancient. Dominion tech won't sync with it. Good thing I'm not Dominion, she said, pulling out a compact device from her belt. A splicer, glowing with green light. Lyran tech adapts to anything, Jace chuckled. Now I'm impressed. Save it for when this works. Sparks leapt from the terminal as she connected the splicer. The tunnel lights flickered. A low hum rolled through the walls as ancient systems stirred awake for the first time in years. Then came a sound, faint at first, then growing louder. A rhythmic clank of boots. Leora's head snapped up. They're here. How many? She listened, tilting her head slightly. A squad. Maybe more. Jace drew his pistol. Guess we're not taking the tram. Before she could reply, a beam of red light cut through the darkness. A drone scout. It hovered, scanning. Jace fired once. The drone exploded, showering them with sparks. That was the signal. Alarms wailed across the tunnel. Voices shouted in an alien tongue. Plasma bolts filled the air. Cover fire! Jace shouted. Leora dove behind a crate, firing bursts of green energy. Her bioluminescent glow made her a beacon in the dark, drawing enemy fire like a star refusing to dim. Turn off your glow, Jace yelled over the chaos. I can't, she shouted back. It reacts to adrenaline. Great feature, he grumbled, rolling across the floor and taking down 2 soldiers. A bolt struck the terminal behind her, frying the system. The lights went dead again. Smoke and steam filled the chamber. Leora reloaded, her eyes sharp, calculating. They've sealed both exits. Not all of them, Jace said, nodding upward. Maintenance shafts. Top of the wall. She glanced at him. Too high. Not if we improvise. Jace grabbed a fallen pipe and jammed it into the ground at an angle. Boost me. Leora raised an eyebrow. You're insane, he grinned. I'm human. She boosted him up. He fired a grappler from his wrist, an old Terran tool with a magnetic line, hooking it to a vent grill above. He yanked it down, creating an opening. Your turn, princess. She jumped, caught the edge, and climbed up beside him just as another volley of plasma hit the wall below. Together they crawled into the shaft. They moved through the narrow tunnel, barely fitting side by side. The sound of metal cracking behind them grew closer. Dominion soldiers forcing entry. Keep moving, Leora urged. They reached a junction that split into 3 paths. Jace checked his compass. Which way? She hesitated. Left leads to the surface. Right goes deeper underground. Surface means death. Deeper means maybe death, Jace said. I like the odds on maybe. They turned right. The tunnel sloped downward, air growing colder, denser. Faint lights glimmered ahead. When they emerged, it wasn't into another sewer. It was into something far older. A cavern stretched before them, lined with massive stone pillars carved with alien runes. The air vibrated faintly with power. A broken statue lay half buried, a tall humanoid figure with emerald eyes of crystal. Leora's voice dropped to a whisper. By the stars. This is a Lyran temple, centuries old. Jace scanned the area with a flashlight. Your people built this? Half my people, she said quietly. The Lyrans were artists, healers, before the Dominion turned them into soldiers. He looked around. You grew up in places like this? No, she said. I grew up running from places like this after they were burned. Her voice trembled on the last word, and Jace felt something stir in his chest. He didn't know what to say, so he didn't. He just nodded and began checking for threats. Leora approached the statue and placed her palm on it. Her glow brightened, and for a moment the runes around them flickered to life, glowing the same green. What are you doing? He asked. Paying respect, she whispered. And asking for strength. Jace holstered his weapon. Then ask for extra. We'll need it. She smiled faintly, the first real one he'd seen from her. You think this place still listens? I don't know, he said, glancing at the ceiling where dust drifted like falling stars. But it's quiet here. That's gotta mean something. For the first time since they met, the world stopped chasing them, and for one fragile heartbeat, the human mercenary and the alien princess stood side by side, not as hunter and thief, but as survivors, caught between the ruins of the past and the fire of what was coming next. And far above them, through the layers of storm and smoke, a Dominion cruiser shifted its orbit. The hunt was far from over. The silence in the Lyran temple was unlike anything Jace had ever felt. It wasn't just quiet, it listened. Every drop of water, every breath seemed to echo with stories buried centuries deep. Leora stood near the ancient statue, her glowing skin softly illuminating the runes on the wall. The green light pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Jace could see that her calm was forced. Her hands trembled slightly when she brushed the dust from the carvings. "These temples," she murmured, tracing a spiral symbol etched into the stone. "They were built as sanctuaries. My mother said they could shield energy signatures and even mask life readings." Jace's eyes narrowed. "Meaning?" "Meaning?" She turned to him. "If we stay here, the Dominion can't find us, not yet." "Good," he said, holstering his gun and sitting on a half-broken pillar. "Because I could use a minute to breathe." Leora gave him a small, tired smile. "Humans really do push until they break, don't they?" He shrugged. "Breaking's just another word for changing direction." For a while, the only sound was the distant rumble of thunder above the tunnels. Jace studied the walls, the carvings, the crystal inlays. He wasn't a man who cared much for art, but even he could tell this place had once been sacred. The walls told stories, battles, stars, and a symbol that looked like twin suns colliding. "What does it mean?" he asked. Leora followed his gaze. "It's the Lyran prophecy in the twin suns. It says that when two distant lights meet, the galaxy will change forever." She looked at him, her tone suddenly quieter. "Some believed it meant our species and yours were destined to collide." Jace smirked. "That's one poetic way to describe getting shot at together." Her laugh echoed softly through the cavern, the first genuine one since he'd met her. Maybe the prophecy didn't mean peace. Maybe it meant chaos. But chaos brings change. He leaned back against the pillar, watching her. "You ever think you were born for this?" She frowned. "For war?" "For leadership," he said. "You talk like someone who used to command armies." Leora looked away. "I used to command dreams. Armies came later." Something in her voice made him quiet. He realized how young she really was beneath the armor and the fire. Before he could speak again, the floor vibrated. A low hum rippled through the temple walls. The runes flickered. "Dust rained from the ceiling. What now?" Jace muttered, rising to his feet. Leora's eyes widened. "The temple's energy field just activated. Can you shut it off?" "I didn't turn it on!" The statue behind her cracked open, literally opened, as if some mechanism deep within had awoken after centuries of sleep. From its hollow chest, a soft holographic projection burst forth, a figure of light, shaped like a woman with the same emerald skin as Leora. Her expression was serene, but her eyes burned with intensity. "By the stars," Leora whispered. "That's a Lyran echo, a memory imprint." The projection's voice filled the chamber, calm, resonant, and sad. "To those who still breathe beneath the shadow, we failed to save our empire. The Dominion rose because we forgot who we were. This temple holds what they fear most, memory. Within the heart crystal lies our truth. Guard it or the stars will fall again." Then the light flickered and dimmed, leaving a faint green glow at the base of the statue, a crystal sphere the size of Jace's hand. Leora stepped forward, eyes wide. "The heart crystal. It's real," Jace frowned. "Looks fragile." "It's a memory core," she said, lifting it gently. "It records the consciousness of ancient Lyran leaders. This could contain coordinates, resistance codes, even Dominion secrets. So it's another thing worth killing us for," Jace said. "Great," Leora smiled faintly. "You humans always look at miracles and call them problems." Before Jace could reply, his wrist tracker beeped sharply. He glanced at the screen, made a motion alert. "They're close," he said. "Maybe the temple's energy spike gave us away." Leora gripped the crystal. "Then we can't stay." They hurried toward the rear passage, guided by flickering runes that glowed faintly at her touch. The tunnel ahead was narrower, the air colder. It sloped upward, leading back toward the surface. "Once we reach the upper tunnels," Leora said, "we'll head for the old tram junction. There's an exit near the east ridge. Let's hope your resistance friends are waiting. Or at least that they're not dead," she replied grimly. Halfway up, the walls shook again, but this time it wasn't an energy pulse. It was explosives. The tunnel ahead burst open and blinding light poured through. Dominion soldiers in black armor stormed in, their visors glowing red. "Contact!" Jace yelled, diving behind a stone column. Leora ducked beside him, clutching the crystal close. "They're using seismic scanners. The temple didn't hide us after all. You think?" Jace fired 3 rapid shots, dropping 1 trooper. "We need a plan, Princess." Leora's eyes darted to the crumbling ceiling. "We don't fight here, we bury them." "What?" She pulled a small detonator from her belt and threw it toward the main support pillar. The explosion roared, collapsing the tunnel behind them and cutting off the Dominion squad. The shockwave threw both of them backward into the lower chamber. Jace hit the ground hard, ears ringing. Dust filled the air. He looked up to see Leora half buried under debris, clutching the crystal to her chest. "Leora," he shouted, rushing to her. She coughed, trying to move. "I'm fine, the crystal's safe." "Forget the damn crystal," he snapped, hauling her up. "You could have died." She met his eyes, fierce even through the pain. "Better me than them. The Dominion can't get this." He stared at her, at the mud on her face, the glow dimming from exhaustion, and realized something had changed. She wasn't just a mission anymore. "Come on," he said, slinging her arm over his shoulder. "You're not dying in a museum." They staggered through a side passage, smoke trailing behind them. The temple groaned as it collapsed, sealing itself in dust and darkness. When they finally reached the outer tunnel, the night sky was visible again. The storm had passed, but the air still shimmered with heat and ozone. Leora looked back once at the buried temple. "We lost the sanctuary," she whispered. Jace glanced up at the stars. "We kept the future." She turned to him, her voice low but steady. "Then we make it count." And as they vanished into the broken skyline of Port Meridian, far above them a Dominion cruiser adjusted course, locking onto a new target. Not the city, them. The night above Port Meridian burned with silent thunder. Dominion patrol ships crisscrossed the skies like silver knives, their searchlights cutting through the mist. Down in the wreckage-strewn industrial district, two shadows moved fast, one human, one alien, racing through alleys still shaking from the temple's collapse. Jace's breath came in sharp bursts as he pulled Leora behind a toppled transport droid. Her left arm hung limp. A gash along her shoulder glowed faintly where bioluminescent blood seeped through. "You're bleeding," he said. "Lyrans don't bleed," she answered through clenched teeth. "We leak determination." He almost smiled. "That's cute, princess, but determination won't stop infection. I'll live." "Can you move?" "Always," he said, scanning the street ahead. The Dominion had sealed most exits, deploying patrol drones in neat, mechanical patterns. Too perfect. Too predictable. They're sweeping east to west. If we cut through the scrap fields, we can lose them. Leora nodded, tightening her grip on the heart crystal. "Then we run." They darted through the shadows, slipping between skeletal towers of rusted machines. Lightning flashed above. Brief snapshots of their faces, grit and fear carved deep. When they finally reached the outer perimeter, Jace stopped. "We need transport. Anything that moves." Leora pointed to a row of half-buried hoverbikes chained behind a smuggler's garage. "Those still have power cells. Dominion scavengers use them for quick raids." "Perfect." Jace shot the locks off one, sparks scattering across the ground. The engine coughed to life, whining like an angry insect. He climbed on and looked at her. "You coming, or do I have to send an engraved invitation?" She smirked despite the pain. "Just don't crash it, human." They sped off into the rain, weaving through collapsed structures. Wind whipped through Leora's silver hair as she clutched the heart crystal to her chest. The city blurred into a maze of steel ghosts and broken neon. After 20 minutes, they slowed near the old freight tunnels, the same ones that had once supplied Meridian's spaceport. Jace killed the engine and coasted into the darkness. Leora dismounted, scanning the area. "This leads straight to the outer colonies. If we reach the resistance base, we can decode the crystal safely." "Resistance base?" Jace frowned. "You never said where. I didn't trust you yet. And now?" She hesitated, then met his eyes. "Now I don't have a choice." Before he could reply, movement flickered at the tunnel entrance, and silhouettes, 4 of them. Jace raised his pistol instantly, but a familiar voice echoed through the shadows. "Easy. Captain Ward, you're among friends." The voice belonged to a tall, broad-shouldered alien with dark crimson skin and eyes like molten gold. He stepped forward, hands raised. "Commander Wrath of the Meridian Resistance, the princess sent word months ago that you might come." Leora's tension melted into relief. "Wrath, you survived." "Barely," the alien replied with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Come, we have shelter." "And med packs?" Jace hesitated. "We just blew half the city sky high." "You sure you want guests?" Wrath chuckled. "You'll find our hospitality better than the Dominion's prisons." They followed him deeper into the freight tunnel. The passage opened into a cavern lit by makeshift lamps. Scavenged tech, stolen drones, A cluster of fighters huddled around holographic maps. The smell of oil and ozone filled the air. Leora's people. The resistance. Jace watched her posture change. Shoulders straightening, chin lifting. Even wounded, she carried herself like a queen. The soldiers bowed as she entered. "Princess Leora," one of them said reverently. "We thought you were dead." "Not yet," she said. "But that depends on how fast we move." She gestured to Jace. "This is Captain Ward. He's the reason I'm standing here." Dozens of alien eyes turned toward him, some grateful, others wary. Wrath clapped Jace on the back. "Any man who keeps the princess alive is welcome among us." "Appreciate the sentiment," Jace said dryly. "But if we stay long, your welcome party will include Dominion troops." Wrath's grin widened. "Then we'll be ready." He led them to a private chamber carved into the rock. "You can rest here. I'll have the medics tend to her wounds." Jace nodded, but something in Wrath's tone felt off. Too smooth, too rehearsed. When the others left, he leaned close to Leora. "Your friend," he whispered, "talks like someone expecting guests he shouldn't." She frowned. "Wrath fought beside my father. He's loyal. Loyalty has a short shelf life when empires pay in gold." Before she could answer, the heart crystal pulsed, a sharp burst of light that filled the room. Jace shielded his eyes. "What now?" Leora stared at it, alarmed. "It's reacting to something external. Like it's being scanned. By who?" Footsteps echoed outside the door, heavy, purposeful. Jace drew his pistol. "You might want to get behind me." The door slid open. Wrath stood there, flanked by Dominion troopers in black armor. His molten eyes gleamed with regret. "I'm sorry, Leora," he said. "You were never meant to win this war." Her expression shattered, not in fear but betrayal. "Wrath, you sold us?" He lowered his gaze. "The Dominion offered peace, and a seat for my people under their rule. I couldn't refuse." Jace's trigger finger twitched. "Guess mercy's expensive these days," Wrath gestured. "Hand over the crystal and I'll let your human live." Leora's glow brightened, anger flaring through her veins like wildfire. "You'll have to kill me first." Jace smiled coldly. "Wrong answer, pal." "You'll have to catch us first," he fired. The blast hit the lights, plunging the chamber into darkness. Leora's luminous glow turned the room into a blur of motion. Shadows and flashes of green and red. Jace moved like a phantom, firing between pulses of light. One Dominion trooper fell, then another. Leora's blade sliced through the third's armor with terrifying precision. Wrath shouted, "Hold fire! We need them alive!" Jace grabbed Leora's hand. "Time to go!" They sprinted through a maintenance corridor as alarms wailed through the base. Behind them, Wrath's voice echoed, furious and echoing through metal halls. "Don't let them escape. The Emperor wants the crystal alive." Jace kicked open a side hatch leading to the storm drains. "Up there!" They climbed the narrow shaft, drenched in sweat and rain. When they emerged, the city stretched out below them, a wasteland of lights and smoke. Leora turned to him, panting. "He betrayed everything. Then we make him regret it," Jace said. "We expose him, the Dominion, all of it. But first, we survive." She nodded, her glow flickering like a heartbeat. "Then let's make the galaxy remember what humans and half-Lyrans can do." And with that, they vanished into the storm again, two fugitives carrying the one secret powerful enough to burn an empire. Rain struck the metal rooftops like drumfire. The city slept beneath the Dominion's curfew, unaware that two fugitives were rewriting the galaxy's fate in its gutters. Jace and Leora crouched inside the shattered skeleton of an old broadcast tower, their clothes soaked, their breath visible in the cold. Below them, searchlights crisscrossed the ruins. Dominion scout ships swept the area with low hums, their sensors flickering through fog. Every few seconds, a voice crackled on the comm channels. "Orders, coordinates, kill-on-site permissions." "They've locked down half the city," Jace muttered, peering through his scope. "Wrath sold us faster than I expected." Leora sat against the wall, binding the gash on her shoulder with what little medgel they had left. Her glow was faint now, almost gone. "He didn't sell us. He sold hope. That's what traitors always do." Her voice was steady, but Jace could hear the exhaustion in it, the kind that came from losing more than blood. He turned toward her. "You need rest." She looked up, eyes gleaming in the dim light. "Rest is for people who still have a home." Jace sighed. "Then we make one. After this." "After this," she repeated quietly, as if testing whether she still believed in after. He knelt beside her, checking the heart crystal. Its surface shimmered with faint green circuits, alive and pulsing. The Dominion wants this thing badly. What's inside? She hesitated, then said, Not just data, consciousness, my mother's partly. She was a Lyran scientist. She encoded her mind into the crystal before the purge. Jace blinked. You're saying this thing is alive? Not alive and aware, Leora said softly. It carries voices from before the fall. If we can interface it with a comm tower, it can broadcast Dominion secrets across every system. Corruption logs, war crimes, everything. He grinned. You mean go viral? Her lips twitched. Your words. My cause. Outside, a gunship thundered past, shaking the floor. Leora instinctively pressed the crystal to her chest as if protecting a heartbeat. Jace noticed her hand tremble. You sure this thing can't track us? It's coded to my biosignature. Only I can access it. Lucky you. She looked at him then, really looked, through the grime and the half-light. You could still leave, you know. Take a transport off this planet before the Dominion catches us, and let you crash this empire alone, he said with a dry smile. No thanks. I'm not that kind of human. Something shifted in her eyes. The sharp warrior softened for a moment. I don't understand you people. Humans have no empire, no fleets, no throne, and yet you fight like you own the stars. Jace met her gaze. We don't own them. We just refuse to bow to anyone who says they do. That earned a small smile from her. Tired but real. Then the tower's floor vibrated again. Not from thunder, but movement. Jace froze. A faint metallic clatter echoed through the stairwell below. Drones, he said. At least 3. Leora reached for her weapon. We can't fight them here. Too open. Jace looked around, pipes, wiring, collapsed panels. He grinned. Then we don't fight. We improvise. Within minutes, he had rerouted the tower's old power core. Leora watched as he wired loose cables around the staircase. You're setting a trap, she realized. He nodded. Dominion drones track heat. When they climb, they'll trip this circuit. You might want to... The explosion cut him off. Sparks ripped up the stairwell, followed by the crack of ruptured metal. 3 drones shattered midair, raining shards of glowing circuitry. Stand back, he finished, brushing dust from his jacket. Leora stared at him, stunned. You could have brought the whole tower down. I calculated the charge. You guessed. He grinned. Semantics, she shook her head. Humans are insane. And proud of it. Before either could say more, her wrist comlink flickered. A signal from deep underground. Static first, then a faint broken voice. Leora, this is Sanctuary Base. Repeat. Sanctuary Base, we received your beacon. Her breath caught. They're alive. Jace frowned. Sanctuary? I thought the Dominion wiped it out. They tried, she said quickly, adjusting the frequency. They must have gone dark. The voice returned, stronger now. We can extract you, North Ridge, Sector 12. 2 hours. Bring the crystal. Copy, she said, eyes lighting up. We'll be there. Jace wasn't smiling. You trust them? Sanctuary was led by Commander Thane, my father's old general. If anyone still believes in the rebellion, it's him. Jace glanced out the window. Or maybe it's another trap, her jaw set. If we doubt everyone, we die alone. I'm not doing that again. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, Princess. North Ridge it is. They left before dawn, moving through abandoned subway tunnels to avoid the patrols. The air grew colder, the walls narrower. Strange lights flickered in the distance. Phosphorescent fungus, glowing wires, or maybe just the city dreaming of power it no longer had. Leora moved with renewed energy. The thought of surviving allies gave her purpose again. Jace followed close, covering their trail, his instincts humming with unease. When they finally emerged on the ridge, the morning haze painted the world silver. A small freighter sat waiting in the canyon below, its engines humming low. There, Leora whispered. They made it, but Jace raised a hand. Something's off. No perimeter guards, no heat signatures. She frowned, scanning the ship with her device. Systems are active, but no crew. Could be cloaked, could be bait. They approached cautiously. The freighter's hatch hissed open with a welcoming chime. Leora hesitated, then stepped inside. The lights flickered on. The interior was empty, too clean, too quiet. Jace's hand went to his gun. This isn't a rescue ship, then the door slammed shut. A cold voice echoed through the speakers. mechanical, commanding, unmistakably dominion. "Welcome back, Princess Leora. Your courage is admirable. Your predictability disappointing," Leora froze. "No." A hologram shimmered to life in front of them. Emperor Vexar, the Dominion ruler himself, his armor gleaming black like liquid metal. His golden eyes regarded her with cruel amusement. "You carry what belongs to me," he said. "The heart crystal. Surrender it, and I may grant your human a merciful death." Jace aimed his gun at the hologram, though it was pointless. "You'll have to come take it." "Oh, Captain Ward," the Emperor sneered. "You've been quite the nuisance. But you forget, empires are not overthrown by scavengers." The hologram vanished. The freighter's floor vibrated. Hidden panels opened, releasing sleek Dominion sentry drones. Leora gripped the crystal tightly. "He traced the signal." "Then let's make sure he regrets answering it," Jace said, cocking his weapon. The first drone lunged. Plasma fire erupted, filling the ship with blue and green light. The battle began again, but this time it wasn't just survival. It was war. The freighter shook as fire lit its corridors. Metal screamed, walls buckled, and sparks rained from the ceiling like dying stars. Smoke rolled through the ship, choking the air. Jace fired in bursts, each shot precise, cutting through the advancing Dominion drones. Leora moved beside him, her bioluminescent glow now bright and wild, illuminating the chaos in green and gold. "Keep moving," Jace shouted, slamming a fresh power cell into his pistol. "If we stay here, we're dust." Leora's voice came through the static and gunfire. "The main thrusters, if we overload them, the explosion will wipe their signal trace." "Suicide plan number 2, huh?" Her lips twitched even through exhaustion. Humans love second chances. They ran toward the rear of the ship, plasma bolts tearing through bulkheads behind them. One drone lunged from the shadows. Jace met it mid-sprint, grabbed its rifle arm and twisted until metal screamed. He kicked it off the catwalk into a pit of sparking machinery. The heart crystal pulsed brighter with every tremor, as if sensing the rising danger. Leora clutched it to her chest. "It's reacting again. I can feel it, Jace. It's awake." "Then tell it we're busy." But the crystal's glow intensified, flooding the ship with a wave of green light. For a split second, Jace swore he heard voices, whispers layered over whispers, echoing through his skull. "We are memory. We are the lost. We are the light that was taken." Leora's eyes widened. "It's not just data. It's the voices of the fallen Lyrans. My mother. The others. They're inside it." Jace looked around as the light spread like fire along the walls. The drones faltered, their sensors glitching. The holographic image of Emperor Vexar flickered back to life, distorted and furious. "You dare awaken their ghosts?" he roared. Leora's glow burned brighter. "You enslaved their worlds. You silenced their voices. Now they'll speak again through me." She stepped forward, holding the crystal aloft. For a moment, Jace forgot the battle. The sight was otherworldly, her silver hair whipped by static wind, emerald light spilling from her hands, her eyes twin stars of rage and grace. The Emperor's voice darkened. "You were meant to die in exile. Your kind are relics. Your empire belongs to me." Jace raised his gun, snarling. "Funny thing about humans, one day we don't care who owns the galaxy." He fired straight through the holographic projector, shattering it. "We make our own." The explosion that followed shook the entire ship. Leora slammed her hand against a control panel, forcing the freighter's power core into overload. The engines screamed like dying beasts. Warning klaxons filled the air. "Jace!" she yelled over the noise. "There's an escape pod near the cargo bay." "Great, how do we get to it?" She gave a sharp grin. "By not dying first." They sprinted through collapsing corridors. Fire followed them, hungry and alive. The floor split beneath their boots. Jace leapt across the gap, grabbed her hand and pulled her after him just as the deck behind them vanished in a burst of light. They reached the cargo bay, but Dominion troops had already breached it. Dozens of armored soldiers waited, weapons trained. The lead officer stepped forward. "Drop the weapon, human. Surrender the princess." "Ladies first," Jace said, aiming high. Leora whispered, "Cover me." "Always." He opened fire. She sprinted into the chaos, weaving through plasma bursts. Her glowing body became a blur of motion, a streak of green light against black armor. She leapt onto a crate, spun, and hurled the heart crystal into the air, where it hovered, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, with her voice clear and defiant, she shouted, "For the lost!" The crystal detonated in pure radiance. A shockwave of light surged through the ship, not heat, not fire, memory. Images flooded every mind in range. Cities burning, children in chains, the truth of the Dominion's crimes. The soldiers screamed as their visors shattered under the overload. Jace shielded his eyes. "Leora, I'm fine," she called, stumbling back toward him. The glow around her dimmed, but her eyes burned with fierce satisfaction. "It's done. The transmission's live. Every world will see it." He caught her as she collapsed. "You just sent your revolution viral." She smiled weakly. "You taught me that word." The floor lurched. The ship's engines reached critical overload. "Time to leave," Jay said, lifting her into the escape pod. As he sealed the hatch, she grabbed his hand. "Jace, what if we don't make it by— We will." "Then promise me one thing," she whispered. "If I fall, carry the light." He looked at her for a heartbeat that felt like eternity. "You're not falling, Princess. You're rising." The pod ejected, spinning violently as the freighter exploded behind them. The shockwave hurled them into the upper atmosphere. Fire streaked across the clouds, painting the dawn gold and crimson. Inside the pod, Leora stirred. "Did we?" Jace nodded, eyes on the display. "Transmission confirmed. Every Dominion channel's been hijacked. The whole galaxy's watching." She exhaled, tears glinting faintly in the glow. "Then we've already won." He reached out, brushing her hair back. "For someone who nearly killed me 3 times, you make a pretty good ally." She smiled, tired, radiant. "You mean partner?" The pod drifted toward the horizon. Below, Dominion banners burned as cities awoke to the truth. Across 12 enslaved systems, revolts erupted like sparks in the dark. The age of silence had ended. Leora leaned her head on Jace's shoulder, whispering, "The prophecy of the twin suns." The 2 distant lights. He smiled faintly. Guess they finally met. And as the first light of dawn touched the pod, Human and Lyran watched the sky blaze with freedom's fire. 2 sparks that refused to die, shining brighter than empires.